Welcome to our Fireside Chat on cybersecurity and upskilling here in Wyoming. I'm Summer Wasson from the Cheyenne Technology Advisory Council, or CTAC, and I'm joined today by our CTAC President, Matt Fields, and fellow CTAC member, Michael Rudolph. We're thrilled to have Laura Baker, Executive Director of CyberWyoming and the President Emerita of CyberWyoming Alliance, here with us today. As Wyoming looks toward a more tech-driven future, we're going to dive into how cybersecurity education and training can play a big role. And so, Laura, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about CyberWyoming and your core mission?
Sure. Thank you for having me here today, and it's fun to talk to the Cheyenne Tech Council, the Advisory Council. CyberWyoming, our mission is really to educate the business community. We have a cybersecurity competition for small businesses to make it kind of fun. We have a business advisor training program so that business advisors can start incorporating cybersecurity topics in their day-to-day conversations with their clients. And then we also have registered apprenticeship for our IT professions, meaning that we've developed this demand from businesses and we follow it up with good trained IT professionals that can talk to business. We teach them things like conflict management and how to read a cash flow statement. So we've really worked hard to develop this, and in 2026, it will be our 9th year of the cybersecurity competition.
Thanks, Laura. Matt or Michael, do you have anything to add about how our community can get involved in this kind of movement?
You know, I think that something that Wyoming has as a whole is that we don't adopt a lot of technology. And I think something like this is a good way for someone to get their feet wet. If you're looking at your current career and things aren't as quite as interesting, or you're looking to get in technology just because of the potential upskilling opportunities and the scalability of it, I think that these sound like a great opportunity. As CTAC, I believe our mission really is around advising and kind of bringing information to the front. And one of the big things that we view as is that Wyoming really could have a tech future. And with that, we have a lot of ability. We have a lot of smart people in the state, a lot of self-innovators, people that have gone through a lot. And I think that the more that we involve ourselves in technology, the more that ultimately we can help our future generations and the state of Wyoming and its economy. So I'd love to learn more about these upskilling programs and kind of talk about some more ways that an individual can get into that and learn more about, what's the time frames, what is what's required to even get into this?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you, Matt. So let's start with registered apprenticeship. This is a free program to any employer in the state and any apprentice in the state. But the trick is matching the apprentices to the employers. And so often these are used by employers who have hired help desk or entry-level people, and they would like to train them up and build their own pipeline to tier 3 technical support. So the registered apprenticeship is a competency-based apprenticeship. So they have a structured learning plan with checklist items that they have to show mastery of. And that's the whole purpose of a registered apprenticeship, is mastering the knowledge, mastering the tasks. And then in addition to it, they've got related training. And that's where CyberWyoming comes in, and the soft skills training, like we talked about with conflict management and reading cash flow statements, among many others, policies and culture, gender language for tech, generational language for tech. We believe at CyberWyoming that even though this person might be on the help desk today, we are training tomorrow's IT managers. And that's the most important thing for us, is to make sure that when they get into that management role, because we know that, you know, they're dedicated. They've gone through 2,000 hours of this apprenticeship. And so that's a full year of working. And most of the time it takes them about 18 months to finish it. And so we know they're dedicated. So those dedicated employees usually stick around. In tech, the turnover rate is usually around 20 to 30% of your employees. And in the apprenticeship, I've only had 3 turnover out of we probably have 30 or 40 that we've run through the program in the last, 7 or 8 years. So it's really increases employee engagement, increases loyalty, because the employer has invested in that employee, and they feel it. They feel the difference. So it's a good training program, and there's multiple occupations. If you go out to apprenticeship.gov, there's occupations for pen testing. There's occupations for IT manager, project manager. We focus primarily on IT specialists as the entry level, and then cybersecurity support technician as a more advanced level, to fill in the gaps of skills. You may have somebody that has been working on server management for years and years and years, and they want to learn a little bit more about networking and network protection. It fills in the gaps of those skills.
Laura, I jotted something down while you were talking because it really resonated with me, but it's that thought of the IT professionals being able to also speak business. Mm-hmm. And I think that what you're describing is a complete skill set training approach. And I think that's great. Michael, did you have anything to add?
It was really exciting. It sounds like you're working very hard to make these actionable steps that people can take to get into the tech industry here in Wyoming. And I guess I'm curious to learn more about how you see that growing in the future, the community in general, and your ability to access that community.
Well, I get a lot of resumes from out of state, and some of them are willing to relocate here if there's an opportunity. But there's also some hesitation too, because we all know what Wyoming winters are like, right? So, so you always wonder how serious they are when they're calling from Houston. But we do get, there are opportunities out there. And I think the difference between apprenticeship and a 4-year institution or that is putting out a cybersecurity professional is that you're doing the learning while you're on the job. So you're actually learning something and doing it at the same time, which builds those skills. And when I talk to employers, they often say things like, okay, resume, but they haven't even volunteered for their church or built their own computer or shown any of those types of skills. And so I get resumes, some that are amazing. They have master's degrees and, are interested in working in cybersecurity, but they're also expecting $200,000 a year. And it doesn't really matter if you have a master's degree in cybersecurity. If you've never worked on a help desk or on a server or on the network, you don't actually know what you're doing. You have the fundamentals, but you don't know what you're doing. So apprenticeship fills that gap.
Great.
What is the, you mentioned about 2,000 hours of training, mm-hmm. and also being able to do this on the job. Mm-hmm. So how does this work? You mentioned 18-month time frame. And so how does this work for an employee getting upskilled? And I guess ultimately, what is the cost for the business?
So this is an employee. The apprentice is an employee. So they are getting paid, but often they're paid at a little bit lower rate than market rate. So let's just say that an IT specialist market rate is around $20 an hour. Starting out as an apprentice, because you don't know what you don't know, you might be starting out at 17 or 18 an hour, but you're working up to that market rate of $20 an hour. And so as you finish, let's say there's 8 job functions with tasks under each one. They're called competencies under each one. So as you finish maybe 2 of the 8 job functions, you get a raise because you're working towards that $20 an hour. And so that's kind of how it works. So it's not free to the employer, but they would have to train an employee anyway. So they may as well follow a structured learning plan. And the best part about it is at the very end, this Department of Labor IT specialist or cybersecurity support technician or whatever the occupation is, they get a Department of Labor recognized certificate at the end. And it's almost like a college degree. In fact, I just handed one out to a cybersecurity business counselor. We have a registered apprenticeship for that. That's the one for business advisors, not for tech people. And she said, it feels like I got a master's degree on top of my 4-year business degree. But she said, but I think it's better because I learned on the job and I really know what I'm doing. It wasn't just a degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found that the same with the technical professionals. A lot of these technical professionals, they might have taught themselves. They might have gotten a 2-year degree, but now they have something on top of it that is really, it's recognized everywhere. And the neat thing is that when we took our standards for this structured learning plan, they've been copied. We took them from somebody in Oregon that allows this. It's allowed to do that in certain cases. And they copied ours, and now ours are, except for maybe a few different words or a few different competencies, it is the same nationwide. And here's something else that Governor Gordon really liked when I told him. We beat Colorado to the punch on this. We were the first one in the region to have any sort of technical professional and cybersecurity apprenticeship. So that made me pretty happy to beat Colorado because we don't often do that.
Yeah, that's good. So these, is this targeting any specific demographic? Younger people? Is this targeting anyone that just wants to do a job transition and basically getting support in that meantime, or someone that's upskilling their employee that's looking at maybe they know that their industry is leading towards technology focus, and this is an opportunity. Now, in that sense, you mentioned $17 an hour, and that can to escalate up. So the business is paying that to that person to upskill them. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're an employee. They're not just an apprentice. They're an employee. Yeah.
Okay. How does that work long term then? In terms, you mentioned a turnover rate of 20 to 30% industry wide, but yours was a fair amount lower. So how does this work? Let's say a business right now, a manufacturing business is moving towards tech. They're looking, hey, we know we need to be able to take the manufacturing we're doing manually right now, and we need to take it and start looking at, okay, we need to start implementing more technology. They're looking at their employees and saying, hey, I need a technology focus. What does this look like from step 0 to basically, getting this up and running?
So every state's different, but in Wyoming, we have a state apprenticeship office that is under the Department of Labor. And what I would say to any employer that is wanting to start doing this technology is they could either go through us, it's free. We've already done the paperwork. All we'd have to do is add their occupation. And what they would do is go out to apprenticeship.gov, and they would find the occupation that's closest to what they want. They would download the competencies, which is the structured learning plan again, and then they would modify it to meet their needs. Once they've done that, we can register it with the Department of Labor, and it's literally about a 24-hour process. It's super easy. We get them signed on with their wage progression. The Department of Labor is very, very clear that they want a wage progression for additional skills. As you get new skills, you get a little bit higher wage. And so we'd have to sign on with that wage progression, and then they could just go running and be enrolled in our soft skills training program as well. Now, if they want to do it themselves, let's say they have, it's a larger business in Wyoming, and they have scores of IT professionals that they want to train up specific to their business, they would go through the state apprenticeship office. I don't know what his title is. I think it's the director or executive director or something like that. But his name is Jason Demo, or Demo, Demo. And he's wonderful. He's there in Cheyenne. He's there to help. He'll get them signed up. He'll help them write their apprenticeship standards, which CyberWyoming's already done as a sponsor. And they can do it themselves. None of this costs money. It just costs a little bit of time for the paperwork. You are going to hire these people anyway, so you may as well train them the way you want to. And if you put a little bit of time up front into that structured learning plan, you're going to be a lot happier with what you get instead of right off the market trying to get them. Maybe they came from healthcare and you're in manufacturing. It's a different world, man. So, industry verticals for IT are definitely real. And if you can train up your own people in your industry vertical, you'll be in a lot better shape.
I jotted something down that you said, and I just, you're talking about the hands-on experience, and that's the value of the apprenticeship program. And it is rare to find that hands-on experience within the IT industries or in the IT field. Other industries have apprenticeship programs. And I think the takeaway from what you've just said, or at least from what I heard, is, businesses can go through and set up this apprenticeship program. They can go through and download the competencies and get registered and things like that. But the benefit of going through CyberWyoming is that you've already established this program. You've already established the competencies, the roadmap, the skill set that folks need, tying together the IT portion plus that business language, that soft skill set as well. So
right.
I think
that's exactly right. We set up all the Department of Labor, the big part of the paperwork. So they have 2 little things they have to do, and the rest we've already done. So it's actually a lot easier. They just have to agree with what we've already done.
Michael, I wanted to just kind of throw this back. Michael works in the heavy tech space as well. I wanted to ask if you have some insight about bridging that gap between the hands-on experience, that business language, the technology background.
Yeah, we've had a number of interns through the Wyoming program for that, the generic non-cyber. And it's, I'm listening to this thinking, wow, I wish I knew about this structured learning plan, because that seems like that would be very helpful. Interns come in with varying levels of knowledge, but they rarely know what the specific stuff you're working on. So having that like graded scale with a set of goals and, or sort of reward for increasing your salary as it keeps going, that sounds like great. So I'm going to be looking into that. And I think that's key, because you need that in-field experience. I guess the other question I have for you about that is, stuff is changing so fast now with the advent of AI. I think having someone outside like CyberWyoming to help monitor that, have the latest, and update the learning plan would be really helpful, at least for my business.
Yes, and that's a nice thing. You have a learning plan that we have, that is the national standard or the CyberWyoming standard or whatever standard you want to call. Doesn't mean you can't change it. So for instance, the national standard had a lot about video conferencing. That was when you had, 7 or 8 years ago, when you had these giant Cisco video conferencing systems, and, you had to maintain them. And now we've got Google Meet, right? So we don't really need that anymore. And so we took that off. But if somebody's still using that, we'll just put it back on. And all we have to do is just keep a log of what we've changed and why. And the Department of Labor still accepts it. So although this is a template learning plan, it is completely customizable to whatever industry you're in. And that's the best part about it, is you're not stuck with this. If you get halfway into it and you're like, oh, this one doesn't make sense for my business, let's rephrase it this way. Fine. We just document it.
So Laura, I think we have a good understanding about what that apprenticeship program entails, how it can benefit, and the ties between most industries. And so in Wyoming, we don't have a lot of tech industry. We don't have a lot of tech corporations. We have a lot of traditional industries, right? So if you could summarize in one statement, I'll throw this out there as a challenge. If you can summarize this in one statement, how does the apprenticeship program help our traditional Wyoming industries adapt?
Apprenticeship is not just for HVAC and electrical anymore. They have apprenticeship for HR specialists, CNAs, registered nurses, and of course IT. So don't limit yourself by thinking about it traditionally, because it has morphed significantly in the last several years.
Right, absolutely. So we've talked about the programs, and one thing that we didn't define, and I just kind of want to define it for our viewers for a moment, is upskilling. Upskilling, we've used the term a few times as we're talking through this. And so upskilling is learning new skills to stay competitive, especially as technology changes our workplace. So yeah, this is a lot of opportunity that we're talking about here. So Matt, as we're learning more about the programs available, how do we bridge that gap in our communities? How do we take advantage of and bridge that gap and maybe spread awareness from an organization like CTAC?
That's a good question, Summer. Right now, I think that our communities, we have a lot of non-tech focused industries, but as the world is rapidly changing, we're seeing those things rapidly intertwining themselves into every industry we have. Whether you walk into the coffee shop and the technology that you have there, from your ordering, your point of sale system to your ordering system, you look at traditional manufacturing, welding, everything is moving towards AI for automation to enable better results and outcomes. And I think the best way that CTAC can really bridge that gap is taking these various technology-focused, AI-focused items like what CyberWyoming is bringing, the upskilling, and just making them aware of it. And at the city council meetings or at your local 4-H meetings or anywhere else, just kind of talking about it and making others aware of it. So, Wyoming and many other rural communities, we may not communicate quite as well or become aware of something that's happening quite as much. And so this, being able to put something out there that does convey this, it opens the doors to talk about it to your friends, talk about it to anyone else that you're working with at work, saying, hey, by the way, I heard about this. And oftentimes you'll find that person will ultimately be like, oh, my son is interested in cybersecurity, or wow, I would love to get into that. It's really interesting. I've just never had the training and opportunity for that. And this opens the door for that. And so bridging that gap is just informing and spreading the information. And the more people that can hear about this, the more that we let others know, and our communities can start to build themselves up. So I think sharing and just continuing to put that out there, everyone that can communicate this and put it out there, is going to be a help to the entirety of Wyoming.
You gave a great example. The more that we can communicate it and kind of share it amongst our communities, it'll help strengthen our industry overall. You gave the example of, oh, my son is interested in tech or something. My brother-in-law is something like that. But Laura, what's the very first step for someone if they're completely new to tech and they don't know where to begin? Can they start with the apprenticeship program?
No. Okay. I would love it if they could, but they really do need somebody that has had just a little bit of experience. So I would say if somebody came to me that was a high schooler or a junior high kid, or somebody that just wanted to retool into this business, volunteer at your church or a nonprofit that you really like, study up, and go in and help them secure their PCs. Build your own PC. Join your local ISSA chapter. That's the Information System Security Association, so that you can network and find out where the internships are. And then get into an internship And the best place to look for internships is over the summer. The school districts have all that computer turnover. And if you have that experience, there's a lot of banks and managed service providers and hospitals out there that will hire you for the help desk. That's when you can get your apprenticeship.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you for bringing that up. I would add in there, if you are looking to get some initial skill set and building that out, and like Laura mentioned, anyone that's looking to do computer turnovers or things, if you are looking at that in the future and kind of thinking longer term, 4-H does have robotics programs in the state, and we do have some new programs coming out alongside the University of Wyoming that will actually help to start learning some of those basics in cybersecurity, some of the basics in computers and working within systems like that. So that is coming out. That will help to prepare for that. And that will also make you as a candidate much more attractive to a school district, a hospital, to say, I did do this pre-training, I did do this, and I do have ideas about where it goes. And that for them is an immediate sell, I believe, towards you being hired and working with them on this apprenticeship program.
Yeah. There's a couple of other programs too. Every semester, CyberWyoming Alliance, which is the education, cybersecurity education for everybody but the business community. It's a separate nonprofit, but we also run it. We partner with the Wyoming Department of Education to do a magic capture of the flag. It's more of a puzzle challenge, and it's for junior high and high school kids to introduce them to cybersecurity concepts and techniques. And, you know, they might learn a little bit of Linux, and they might learn a little bit of, you know, browser security, and they might learn a little bit of Windows operating system security. But it's all, everything's a puzzle. And so you're competing against, your team is competing for points, not trying to, you know, hurt the other team across the nation. The next one, I believe it's in October. You'll have to check our website. It's under Magic. And then the other program that's really fun is you could create a do-it-yourself Lego model. So garage sale over the summer. A lot of families still have Legos. So grab those Legos, garage sale over the summer, find old Windows 10 computers that are going to be non-existent or not non-existent, expired this fall when Windows 10 goes under and is no longer supported by Microsoft. Grab those. Grab your old home wireless router that you're not using anymore and don't know what to do with, and network these Legos and the lights and have the lights come off and on. The entire program, we've got videos to show how to build this yourself. We've got the Python programs. You need a Raspberry Pi, you need a couple of old computers, an old wireless router, a Lego set, and some lights. And it is fun. And it would be a great opportunity for, you know, a family project, or for homeschoolers, or for a classroom project. And we've actually mapped it to the Wyoming Department of Education standards as well.
So I was talking to Wilson Waller at CyberArts about their program for training, and he had mentioned about the Cyber Patriot program. And with the 4-H robotics and what we're doing with that, we're starting to use some of this stuff. But can you tell me more about what the Cyber Patriot program is?
Yeah, it's put on by the Air Force. I think it's the Air Force Association, not the Air Force itself. But Cyber Texas, our sister organization, that's what they do. So if you need more information, I can hook you up with Joe Sanchez there. But it is a competition program. Kelly Walsh High School has been very active in it over the years. Dwayne Reimer is the teacher there. And I think Cheyenne East has done it a few times, but I don't know if it's been a consistent program or not. So the teacher coaches, or the mentor coaches the team, and then towards the goal. And then you have a Saturday of competition, and you have 3 or 4 Saturdays of competition. It goes throughout the fall semester, and I think a little bit into the winter. And then the top teams per state can go to nationals and compete. And I think it's in DC. They might move it around a little bit, but I know that our Cyber Texas cohort, I've met kids that have gone to that at the national level. And it's just, they have so much fun. And so there's a lot of schools that they might have Air Force ROTC in the high school. Those ROTC teams are required to do it quite often. It's part of the curriculum, but it doesn't have to be for, you know, those that might be interested in going into the military. It can be for anybody. And they have a K-6 Cyber Patriot program that's free. It's not competitive. It's just materials that you can download for free. And so any K-6 teacher can grab those off of the website, the Air Force Association website, and use them in class.
Okay. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, there's some great resources. If you go out to cyberwyoming.org and look at our educator resources, there are programs nationwide that we've found out about, and we've interviewed the founders or those that implement it. And you would be amazed at the amount of programs that are out there. It's just really cool stuff. The University of Texas San Antonio has some really great games that you can play. They're card games, and it's kind of like playing Pokemon, but they're cybersecurity, and they teach network fundamentals and attack and defense principles. So you can throw an attack card on somebody else's, and it stops them. It takes away their firewall. You know, it's a lot of fun. And we have a few sets of those, but teachers can get those sets for free.
Okay. So does CyberWyoming have a curated list of these things that we could look up? So where is it? On cyberwyoming.org?
Cyberwyoming.org. Go to Find My Program and look for educator resources.
Okay. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. We're coming up on time, so I want to keep us moving along, and I want to talk for a moment about October. With Cybersecurity Month coming up in October, what are some of the biggest cybersecurity challenges facing folks across Wyoming and in businesses today? What's one key thing everyone can do to start protecting themselves?
Call before you click. We just got a DocuSign impersonation scam is going around Albany County right now. And I can't tell you how many people have called me. Is this real? Is this real? And I said, I don't know. Call the person that sent it to you and ask. Don't click on it. Call. We're a small enough community. You can catch up with that person. They're obviously in your contacts list. It's a good excuse to say hi instead of just be virtual all the time. But I would say that is the number one thing that I would recommend people do.
It's good.
Michael, do you have any insight on that? Like, is there anything in particular, a message that you run with for Cybersecurity Month?
I really like call before you click. That's catchy. Yeah. When I've worked at federal companies, you know, the biggest thing was don't click on links. And that was, so call before you click really helps that. If you don't know how to call them, then, well, you shouldn't be clicking on it.
Yeah. And I think that's important. That's a really valid point, because if you didn't expect the document, if you didn't expect the link share, then it should be suspicious, right? And today's landscape has changed enough that email addresses are being spoofed or impersonated, and so it's tough. It's new for everybody. Laura, would you want to touch on for a moment as well, Cyber Cheyenne?
Yes, I'm glad you asked, because I was hoping somebody would bring that up. Matt actually went last year, so I'd like his opinion on it as well. But this year, Cyber Cheyenne is October 3rd. Cybercheyenne.com to register. It's put on by the Wyoming and Northern Colorado ISSA clubs. And I know Matt last year had some really good comments about it. We have a good lineup of speakers. We've got the Idaho National Lab coming in to do Cyber Strike Lights Out. It's a Ukraine simulation of what happened in Ukraine. So, and it's only $40. So join us. Matt, do you want to talk about it from last year a little?
Yeah, I'd love to. So one of the big things, again, about communication in Wyoming, it doesn't usually happen that much, but when you have an event like this that brings a lot of different cybersecurity professionals from different areas in, the talks were great, and I appreciate those a lot. But the networking, just meeting other people, learning about what they're doing, learning about what's happening, I had an opportunity to talk to the ISA members and learn about the different programs they're working on. So whether you're a student or someone in the cybersecurity field or in the IT field, this is an immense way to really broaden your skill set, broaden who you know, what's happening in Wyoming and the areas around here. And I think that it becomes kind of one of the meeting hubs that we start to broaden the scopes in Wyoming. You know, you can look at what's happening and start talking about it, about your schools, or talk about your businesses, or learn about the programs like CyberWyoming or ISA offer. So it was really great, and I appreciate it. I believe Michael was there too.
Oh, you were there too?
Yeah, it was.
So.
I really appreciate the networking, especially people coming as far as Boulder. You know, it was really a regional event, so it was great to meet all those people.
Yeah, and you get free CPE credits too.
That's important. Okay.
So Laura, as we wrap up, any final words for our viewers?
I think the resources are out there, so ask around. You know, we're a small state, but we're actually rich in resources, not just minerals and oil and gas. We're rich in resources, and if you don't get the answer that you want right away, keep asking, because eventually, you know, Matt might lead you to Michael, and Michael might lead you to me, and then I might lead you somewhere else. And eventually you're going to get where you need to go, because we're all willing to help, especially at the Cheyenne Tech Advisory Council.
Love it.
Michael, how about you from a technical standpoint?
I just really appreciate this, Laura, and all the work that you're doing at Cyber, from, you know, educating kids all the way up to bringing people in the workforce. So we've been talking a lot about that at CTAC, how that education of the workforce is critical, and you know, to build this community. So thank you for all the work you're doing on that.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for putting the effort into Wyoming. You know, our towns, our people, our businesses, they're worth it. And we appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I echo all of that as well. So thank you all so much for your time today. This conversation has been valuable. And I do want to let our viewers know too that I encourage you to check out everything we discussed today. There were a lot of great resources Laura talked about. You can always visit CyberWyoming, cyberwyoming.org, and visit or follow, the Cheyenne Technology Advisory Council on social media. And of course, join us in celebrating Cybersecurity Month in October. So thank you for tuning in.
All right. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks
Thanks,
you.
everyone.